Hi, this is Alessio, Rastani, leading trader. Hope you're well. I just thought I'd give you a quick update on what's happening here on Bitcoin, which is really fascinating, I have to tell you. Just about an hour ago, I got an alert, a text alert on my phone saying that Bitcoin had hit 3,500, actually went below 3,500 on this chart. This is actually a Bitstamp chart of Bitcoin I'm looking at here. And indeed, it is correct. Bitcoin did indeed, this morning, went below 3,500, just below 3,500 on this chart. And you can see it managed to recover since then a little bit. It's now trailing just near the 3,800 level here. But what I want to really show you in this video is actually something much more important, which is this. Firstly, about a week ago, I posted this video, which I'm sure you saw, which was called How Low Will Bitcoin Go? And in this video, I showed you two downside targets. The first downside target, which we already met about a few days ago, was near the 4,500 level. And my next downside target was, as I mentioned, about 3,500. So both of our downside targets, both 4,500 and 3,500, have now been reached based on symmetrical projections that we mentioned in a previous video. But also something else. You will notice this pulse that fired about on the 14th of November. Now, what is absolutely fascinating about this is that since this pulse fired to the downside, as you can see, since these red dots turned to blue dots here, you will see that Bitcoin dropped from 6,250 all the way down to nearly 3,500. That is a drop of almost 2,750 points, which is incredible. And this is why I kept saying in my previous videos, it is never a good idea to fight the momentum of the pulse. Okay, when the pulse fires, never a good idea to stand in front of it. It's like standing in front of a freight train. Okay, that's going to just run over you. So if you're a contrarian, the worst time to be a contrarian is when the momentum of the pulse is moving against you. Now, there is something interesting about this. The average pulse signal lasts about 8 to 10 bars, or 8 to 10 days, as this is a daily time frame. So we've now been in this pulse momentum now for 12 consecutive days. All right, that's 12 days we have been now in this pulse signal. But because the average pulse lasts about 8 to 10 bars, or 8 to 10 days in this case, we've now gone past the period when a pulse lasts. So we are coming to a time when I think the momentum of this pulse is eventually going to fade. I think we could see the fading of this momentum maybe in the next few days, or maybe as we head through this week. Of course, I should say there are some rare situations, some unusual situations, when the momentum of the pulse can last more than, say, 10 to 12 days. I've seen situations when a pulse has lasted for almost 15 to 20 days, which is, again, unusual, but there it is. There's something else I need to mention here, which is that a few days ago, in my video about a couple of days ago, I mentioned that the bounce, so after we saw this drop here, I said, look, the bounce on this drop could be very disappointing, could be very shallow. Why? Because I said we're in a wave 3. Take a look at this chart. This is the standard Elliott wave pattern. And one of the key things we know about wave 3 is that wave 3 usually has very shallow pullbacks. Okay, the pullbacks, the bounces are extremely disappointing. All right, they're not very big, they're very small. So in other words, what this means is that this drop we've seen in Bitcoin, this continuous drop in the last couple of days, this increases the probability, increases the likelihood that what we're dealing with here is not a wave 5, but actually is wave 3, as we said it was a few days ago. And by the way, another characteristic of a wave 3 is that wave 3 usually ignores oversold conditions. The RSI has been oversold now for some time, but look, it continues to ignore it. And that again is another key characteristic of wave 3s, when they completely ignore RSI oversold conditions. You know, the price just shrugs its shoulder. You know, so what? Who cares if it's oversold? That's what happens in wave 3s. Now, here's what I'm waiting for. Let me show you. On this chart, you will see an indicator called LT Delta Vortex. Now, this is an indicator I showed you a few weeks ago, and it's developed by my good friend Simon Shepard, who's a mathematician. And what this indicator does, it uses mathematical probabilities to show us high probability reversal signals. Okay, so for example, last time one of these signals occurred was back in, as a matter of fact, it was August, as you can see here. So when you see the yellow followed by the blue, that blue signal after the yellow-orange shows us there could be a potential high probability reversal. And you can see that's what happened there. A very strong bounce off of that. But you can see there's been so far, at the moment, there is absolutely no yellow or blue signals. Well, firstly, you need to see a yellow-orange signal. There hasn't been any orange heads-up signal. So until we get that orange heads-up signal followed by the blue, I'm personally not all that interested. I think once we get that orange heads-up and then followed by the blue, we could see a potential reversal, maybe a short-term reversal, by the way, maybe a short-term bounce potentially. But we haven't got that at the moment. That's all I'm saying. By the way, some of you are probably thinking, well, could Bitcoin go below 3,500 level? Could it actually go much further lower below this 3,500 level of support? Okay, I think it could, yes. And in fact, in a separate video, which I'll post later in another day, I'll show you what my expected target, the next downside target, could be. But look, for the moment, Bitcoin has hit our 2 downside projections based on symmetrical projections. So far so good. And as we get more information, we'll examine the charts again. All right, guys, one important thing I want to mention before I finish this video is this. I'm doing a very important webinar. It's a free webinar, and it's online and live, which is on Thursday, this Thursday at 8 p.m. UK time, which will be 3 p.m. Eastern time. Highly recommend you register for it and attend it. Again, it's free to attend. The webinar is on secrets to reading the markets. I'm going to show you some very important information and strategies which you can actually employ in your analysis. Thanks very much indeed, and bye for now.